Welcome to Royalty Reel's Real podcast. Real conversations, real people, real life. Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your man Royalty Reel here today, and welcome to Royalty Reel's Real podcast. And my guest today is Jonnae Thompson, comedian, singer, and it's a privilege to have you on this podcast with me today.
Thank you for having me. Glad that we could connect and make it happen during this time.
Right? Zoom has really made a lot of things possible.
This is true. This is very true. I'm loving the creativity and just the ways of, getting things done in spite of things being shut down.
Right. So I was introduced to you actually on a Kev on Stage Keep Your Distance show last year.
Okay.
Which was awesome. And then my wife says I'm kind of nosy, so I go, if I don't know somebody, I go do my research, so I started looking you up, and then I was surprised to see that you're a singer as well.
Yes, yeah, I sing as well. It started with singing, I would say, just as a child, growing up in church, preacher's daughter, kind of just came with
PK?
Yeah, I'm a PK, so natural born choir member, praise team leader, all that stuff. But yeah, comedy started when I was in college.
What inspired you to start doing comedy?
To be honest with you, it was one of those things where I would say it's a gift. It's a gift from God. Growing up, I was definitely class clown K through 12. Pretty much got started in doing like theater as well in high school. So that kind of gave me some familiarity with stage and live performance. While I was in undergrad at Cal State University Northridge, there was a Jimmy Kimmel college comedy competition.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was nationwide, but the Southern California audition just happened to be on my campus. So I kind of just that day signed up, and that night did a 3 minute set.
Whoa! You had to perform the night that you signed up?
Yes, it was one of those things. I'll be honest with you. I had seen a flyer for this competition for at least a month leading up to. I would see it in the gym. I would see it in the cafeteria, in the dorms, everywhere, and it did catch my attention. Um, but I kind of chickened out. I was like, I don't really know, like stand up. I grew up watching it, avid fan, and I never really realized that most of the time when you see something on television, comedy related, it's written, it's been performed, and
Right.
as I knew, I thought these people were just getting up there and winging it. So I kind of was like, I don't really know if I can do that. Like I can make people laugh, but I don't know if I could stand up there and do it. So I kind of shied away from it. But the day of, there was a representative who was a woman, and she stopped me and a group of friends and was like, "Hey, are any of you ladies funny? There's this comedy competition. There are no females represented, and like we really want to get at least one girl in this." So it was a resounding it's her amongst my friends, her being me. And I ended up saying, sign me up. And I went home. And the way the story goes is I called a buddy of mine who is a professional comedian by the name of Arvin Mitchell. And um, you may know him from the show Bill Bellamy hosted, I believe it was called Who's Got Next? Maybe?
Yeah, I remember that show.
One, yeah. So he won, I think season 1 or 2, and I called him like, "Hey, there's this comedy competition. I signed up. Do you have any advice?" And he kind of, tells me a few pieces, but what stood out to me was him saying, "Talk about what you know." Um, no one can tell you your truth, and what you know isn't funny. So just go with that. And then he proceeded to ask when the competition was. And I'm like, "Oh, it's, 6 o'clock." So he's like, "Tonight?" And kind of your same reaction, like, "Wait, what?" You're like, he was like, I don't really know if I would like just go up there and wing it for a competition. Like,
How long was the set?
It was a 3-minute set.
Okay.
And I just was like, gotta go by, I can do it, So I do the competition and I end up being the runner-up. And the host of it, Vargas Mason, you may know him from Last Comic Standing,
Mm-hmm.
amazing comedian who produced shows throughout the years at the world famous Comedy Store here in Hollywood.
Okay.
And he connected with me that night and was, like, I think you're funny. I want to work with you. And to be honest with you, I just remember I added him on Facebook and I didn't really think twice about it. Even being the runner up, I didn't consider doing stand up. I just was like, okay, that's something to throw in the bag, like whatever. But
Did
I
that,
yeah, okay, comedic roles, cool. Like, he ended up inviting me out to the Comedy Store maybe about 6 months after that, and I assumed he was inviting me to watch him. So I'm like, yeah, sure. Can I bring friends? The next email he sends is booking details,
Mm,
and I'm like, oh wait, like I don't think he realizes I don't really do this. Like that was just on the
right.
spare the moment. It's not really something I'm pursuing, but I talked to a buddy of mine who was like, yo, like the Comedy Store, like that's where everyone
That's
has come
huge.
from. Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, Robin Williams, like the list goes on. He was like, if someone sees something in you that, a place like this, if they're asking you to perform like this, like you'd be a fool to pass it up. So
Right.
I had about a month to prepare and I did it. And that is like, to me, that's like my first like set where I consider, and it's 12 years now it's
12
been.
years.
Yeah.
Wow. So
Yep.
what are you more passionate about, the music or the comedy? Or is it
Um,
even?
to be honest, that I'm equally passionate. They both kind of serve a different purpose and a different satisfaction for me. I feel like with stand up, it's awesome. It's such a solitary sport though, you know? So it's just you. Which I do enjoy that piece where it means like I don't really have to connect with too many people in terms of even like scheduling or like I could just do it. Music I love, but when it comes to music, I'm much more of a collaborator. So that requires a little bit more, as you could imagine. And I'm like the type I love live music. So I'm like, well, let's get a bassist, let's get a harmonica player, let's get a violin. Like I'm kind of wild with it. So, but I love it. And to me, that's like I consider it the playground for me. Like we all just get together and we all play and we have fun. So I'm passionate about both. Um, I would say the same. They just kind of satisfy
So has
different.
so has it been easier to do comedy more during the pandemic, or the music? Because it's kind of hard to connect with people when you can't go outside.
You know, honestly, it's been fair. It's been kind of split. So, for example, like you seeing me on something like Keep Your Distance. So, me being in LA doing comedy for the last 12 years, I haven't been on the road much. So I do feel like a lot of times my audience was a little more limited to just Los Angeles. And of course, things like All Deaf and things brought other fans, but just seeing my stand up, the pandemic has caused a lot of virtual shows, and I feel like it's reaching a lot more people nationwide and even universally, which has been awesome. And with the music, I've had opportunity to get on apps like Voisey and things like that, where connecting with producers all over the world, and that to me is incredible. It's something I can do from my phone, like record, mix, and all of that, like right here. And it feels good to just keep the creative juices flowing and connecting with people even more
Right.
as we are separated.
That's awesome. So how did
Yeah.
you get into working at All Deaf?
All deaf. I first got walked through the doors. Shout out to Doughboy. Doughboy and we worked together on the stand-up comedy scene for years. And when he got an opportunity to work there on an administrative level, they were doing like mass auditions. And I contacted him like, hey, what do I do? How do I get in? He's just like, got you. I'll make sure you're seen and all of that. So and put in a good word and all of that. So I did get to do a couple of videos with them. I would say like 2015-ish, 14, 13-ish, I don't know, somewhere around there. Um, and there was like a lapse, I would say. They have so many amazing talent, which I love. They're always showcasing new faces and things like that. So um, I started getting heavily more involved with the squad, the more regular faces, and more content building with that in about 2018 or so. It started with To Hear More. He had invited me out to do Bad News.
Okay.
And that video went like, it did really well. The numbers did really well, and the audience was really like, hey, we want to see more of her. So that kind of sparked like a
So,
train of, yeah.
so were you writing there, or were you just on the sketches?
Just like more of the sketches, I would say social commentary videos like Great Taste. And then with writing, I would say when it comes to bad news and dad jokes of that nature, I do write my content for those.
Okay, so I didn't know that the comedians come in there and write their own jokes for dad jokes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Dad jokes, bad news, roast me.
So how was the experience there, and how is it? You still work there, right?
Well, right now things are a little different. I've done a few things with them during the pandemic, which has been like virtual. So we've done things like via Zoom. I have shot a couple of videos in person. I did 2 episodes of dad jokes during this time, one with Boo Capone and Sabrina Castro. So those are some newer videos I've dropped over the last couple of months. And then the Keep Your Distance is, Kev has branched out and created his own thing
I,
with
I
that.
really I really have to commend Kev because he's black excellence all the way.
All the way, right?
I love seeing it for real.
Kev is like Black Jesus right now. Like, so many people are like, can I just touch the hem of his garment? Can you just get stage on the phone? I'm like, listen, first of all, I don't ask men or anyone for favors, but I'm definitely not gonna ask no married man for no favor. Okay, just to set the record. Like, we just don't do that. But no, right? It's just weird. Hey, Kev, can you? No,
Right?
no. Like, submit your stuff, like
Melissa gonna pick up the phone and be like, What'd you say?"
Miss Melissa got hands. Don't get it twisted. Melissa has hands. She has abs. She has it all.
I
Yeah,
got mad respect
the whole family.
for everything that they're doing there. It's inspired me too. So,
It
uh, so,
is.
so how was Keep Your Distance? Like, it really feels like the vibe is really like it's different because
It's
it's comedy in that way, and I really liked it.
Yeah, it's beautiful because it just proves like if you have an idea, just do it. To be bold enough to create a show, a live show during this time, one is a lot of people are afraid to do those steps to invest in themselves. And Kev invests in his people. Like, Kev takes care of us. So that's one thing I commend too. Like, he really gives opportunities. um and the way that the show worked is it's outdoor. So it definitely is, still following the guidelines, and very limited amount of guests. Everybody, it has to be COVID tested, including the talent, the crew. So um, it's a new experience, like walking through and having your temperatures checked. And um, the audience that is there live, mask on, so you kind of don't get that. You don't get to see the teeth and
Oh,
um,
really? They even mask up the
everyone's
people.
masked up. Mhm.
Oh,
And
wow.
once you're off that stage, you got your mask right back on, like it's not a game. Yeah. So, it is cool though to see this thing happen where there is, although the audience there is limited to, I would say maybe 15 people or so, maybe 20 is being generous. I don't even think it's that. Um, but the viewership that is watching it live and in real time, coming in by the thousands and all of that, it's kind of mind blowing
Were
to
you guys aware of like the comments that were coming in as they were coming in while you were doing it?
not while you're doing it. Now for me, I had my friend Sabrina Sith, who's Tony Baker's partner.
Mhm.
Uh, she was like kind of sharing with me afterwards, like it was lit, like telling me all the people that were watching. And I had a lot of friends and family, people from elementary school, all over, kind of reach out and like, hey, I saw you on the, Keep Your Distance show, which was really awesome, to know that not just that many people are supporting me, but supporting Kev on stage, and like you said, Black excellence, because he really is showcasing a lot of brilliant, hardworking talent, like
Right.
people who people need to see. So,
That is so true.
mhm.
So you said you grew up in Cali. What part?
I am originally from San Diego.
There you
Um,
go.
yeah, I moved to Los Angeles when I was 18, to go to Cal State Northridge, and I've been here pretty much ever since. I did move back to San Diego for about 3 years, and during that time was when I really picked up a lot of music, as well. Did a lot of recording collaborations, and um, yeah.
So when you collaborate with people, what do you is it do you collaborate with hip hop as well, or do you just like the R&B neo soul kind of thing? Because I saw some of your music you did a Jill Scott, and I was feeling that. I was like, okay, yeah. But do you
Um,
collaborate with hip hop as well?
yeah, interestingly enough, it's mainly hip hop artists that most of my collaborations have been with, hip hop artists. And other than that, I did a collaboration with, it was like a Swedish, like a bebop kind of jazz, uh electronic. It was a whole different kind of sound, like a new sound actually, where it was Escondido club music was what they ended up, the genre that this music is
Mhm.
under. And the project, and band is called Free Action. And it was an awesome experience. I got to collaborate
Yeah,
with
I'm gonna have to
a lot.
check them out.
Yeah, a lot of different. Yeah, that album is, on all streaming platforms, um, and I'm about probably on 50% of it vocally, and
Wow.
yeah, it was a pretty rad experience. And the music, I feel, is very, timeless. It's message music is how I would describe it. Um, I didn't write any of the music, but every single song that I was on felt like something, like during that time, it's like, whoa, this is weird. Like, are you in my head? Like, it was very spiritually aligned, I would say.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's always been a dream of mine because I do music as well. I sing, I rap, and I always wanted to like cross over, so do something with a punk rock group because I listen to everything. So like,
Yeah.
how can we merge this and make it something different and special? So that's always been something that I've been interested in. So so now it's Black History Month.
Yeah.
Um, what are your thoughts on this month as a whole? Do you think it's important for us to to be defined by one month of the year? And
Mhm.
I feel like because I'll share a quick story. One of my nieces had a book, and they were retelling the story of slavery
Mm.
the wrong way, and was like they took them out of Africa and they were willing to go type of thing, and they helped them out over here, and I was just like, this is really in your book, like seriously, this is really in your book. And what do you do for Black History Month? Are we it was nothing like, well, probably when we grew up, because we're near the same age. Like, you had to write a report on somebody or something like that. Nothing like that now. So do you think it's lost its way?
Well, one thing that I've kind of picked up, I would say, when I moved on to higher education was the power of text, and that, the importance of us writing stories too and telling our story, because it's proof. Even when our history books, they were pretty flawed. Even when we got to Black History Month,
Mm-hmm.
it's basically this much about Dr. King and a bunch about slavery, and that's it pretty much. And I remember even when I remember very specifically being in middle school. This was my eighth grade year, and U.S. history or world, what history class. I don't know what it was called, but it was a history class.
Oh yeah, world history.
Right. So I just remember, okay, school started in the fall. We're now in February,
Mm-hmm.
and we ain't learned nothing about no Black people. I just remember that, and I remember asking my teacher, "Hey, do you think maybe this month we could learn something about Black history in our history class?" And I remember him telling me, "If you want to learn about Black history, you need to do the research." And I remember going to homeroom the next day, and I'm doing my research, and my homeroom teacher happened to be a Black woman. Shout out to Linda Logan, one of
Oh,
my favorite teachers. Um, she asked me like, "Oh, that's interesting." Like, she saw me doing some research, like, "What class is this for?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's just something I'm doing on my own." And I kind of shook off with it, and I just told her what the teacher told me. And as an adult, it's like, what? Like, no. So she must have had a conversation with that teacher, because I just remember the next day we were learning,
right.
about Black history. And even going back to my years at CSUN, it wasn't until I started taking cultural studies classes, Pan African studies, Chicano studies, Asian American studies, that I really learned that, yeah, the history that we learned ain't really accurate. So
Not at all.
I can't even imagine that they've done even more throughout the years to
Yeah.
confuse us of who we really are. But the beautiful thing is that we now have things like the internet. We have things like people are more passionate about sharing who we are through mediums, even like TikTok and
Mhm.
Instagram. So it's like, if they're not going to teach you, we'll meet you halfway. We'll meet you where you are to get the information to you about who you are. So I think Black History Month, oddly enough, I mean, even if it is 1 month, I feel like throughout the years, I've noticed a more emergence of, like, it feels more like we're getting closer to 365 Black History Month. A lot more Black people at the forefront, proud, loud, and
Right.
you know,
And people willing to share their stories, which I love it. I really do. So,
absolutely.
in your set, I remember you talking about that you were teaching for a little while.
Yeah, I was an educator for a few years, basically doing like a lot of nonprofit work. So I worked in like continuation schools and kind of more with at-risk youth. I think all youth are really at risk. Is no different. I don't believe it. This is a good school. This is the bad school. This is a good kid. This is a bad kid.
I I don't mean to cut you off, but I hate when somebody tries to categorize a child as bad.
I
How?
mean, it's
Where?
interesting, right? Because I guarantee no kids have really done things you haven't done. But as an adult,
Exactly.
you know. But that experience, I do miss working with youth. I've worked with pretty much every age group except for middle school. So everything from kindergarten to high school. And it's just interesting kind of seeing the different age groups has been a
How,
lot of witness.
how long ago was that that you were in that field?
So I first started when I was still in undergrad. I started doing like after school programs and like resource assistance to like students who had different learning abilities and all that. And then continued that work, continued on while I lived in San Diego for a little bit. I would say up until about 2016 or so. Yeah, probably 2016 or so.
Are you still interested in working with children in that way, or you think you transitioned, or do you think? Go
Well, to be honest, like at this point, like I really know my career goal and path is to be full-time entertainment. So between the comedy, the music, the acting, the writing, like that really is my full-time goal. But I wouldn't mind like if I had to supplement it doing something else. Education and entertainment are both things that I'm equally passionate about. I definitely at some point would even like to incorporate the teaching skills into something creative. Like a lot of people do contact me for different advice, knowledge, different consultations about comedy and the game and the 12-year experience. So at some point I would like to do some type of workshops, courses, classes to consolidate that information to something that can help more people in a way like that.
So you said acting as well. So are you interested in doing like TV, movies, or do you want to be confined to a comedy role, or would you take a more serious?
Well, I've had opportunities so far to do both comedic and dramatic roles. So I've done a few two horror films. One was a short film for the Los Angeles Film Festival called Coercion. And then the other one is Children of the Sun, which is still in post production at this moment. And in that, I got the opportunity to play the opposite of oh my gosh, why did I just forget his last name? Glenn. Oh, forgive me, but OG Bobby Johnson. What is his last name?
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Glenn, not Lewis. Glenn. See, now you're gonna make me find it out.
You can go ahead and Google it. It's fine.
Right? What is his name? It's Glenn. Is it Glenn Johnson? No. I don't know why it's not popping up. Okay. It is Glenn Plummer. There it is. Glenn Plummer. Shout out to the legendary, iconic actor. And that was like one of those moments where it was true and proven to me that what's for you is for you. Because for me, in my experience with acting, coming from a theatrical background, I have had some difficulty sometimes translating. They're a totally different set of acting skills where when you're on stage doing something like a play, a theater production, it's everything is much bigger, larger, grander. You gotta, but for on camera, everything is like a little more consolidated to you want to be within that lens and make it appear, like you're so learning how to make those choices in auditions and things like that. I would say it was something that I found to be a challenge for me. And sometimes a little discouraging because it's like, I know like I can do it. It's just I get a little like shooken up in these audition rooms. But this was a process that I didn't even have to audition for. The writer, director, producer, Miranda Brown Parker, sorry, Miranda Bowden Parker, she basically was like, I have this role and I want a strong Black lead. I want you to do it. And I read the script, I loved it, and I loved the cast. Kareem Grimes from All American is in it.
Really?
Yeah, it's a dope movie. So I can't wait for it to be finished.
How was
And
it? How was it filming it though? Did you enjoy it?
I did. It was one of those projects that I would say I learned fast. I had never been, on a set to that extent, not being an extra. So just like going from being an extra to jumping into a lead role, even that was like, okay, like learning lines like that are learn pages and pages and pages, like those sort of things.
Wow.
Things like having to remember, because when you're shooting, you don't always shoot in order. Sometimes you have to work with the locations you're at, so you got to shoot
Mm.
everything that's there. That so having to remember little things like, well, how was my hair then, or how was my, like little things, like you have to remember where you are in the script and where you shit what leads into those little things. Like it has to make sense, in the editing process after. So all of that was very new for me. We had a lot of fun. We did it in a short amount of time. I believe we did this film in 3 days.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah. So that was intense. Yeah, a lot of, it was sacrificing some sleep and things like that. But
How
it
was
was worth
working
it.
with those seasoned actors? Was it intimidating, or was it like they kind of guided you along in it?
Yeah, I would say initially going into it, it was intimidating, but not in a way of not feeling good. It was intimidating in a way of excitement of like, I get to work and learn from people who are better at this than me, like way better at this than me. And just soaking it up. I would say Glenn was very helpful, very hands-on, like in moments of just being real with me, like, like, is that a real reaction or things like that, where to work with a seasoned person just to learn how to be in the moment, which is what acting is
Right.
so that. And you can't be ahead, you got to be right there. So very grounding, um but taught me too, like I got a lot more learning still to do, a lot more work to do. But it was an incredible experience. Very cold. We had some early morning shots shot in the mountains and things like that, so freezing. The kids in the production were awesome. They got great attitudes, very talented. Um, it
Are
was an
you
awesome experience.
are you allowed to tell us like the synopsis of the plot or anything?
Let me see what I can tell you without giving away too much.
Right.
So, the horror film, kind of based off of, kind of has like a end of the world feel to it. Um, there is this, I don't want to know. We'll say it's this force that could be a virus, that could be a person, that could be whatever. But there's a force that makes it dangerous for people to go outside. Now, one thing though, children of the sun, hello, melanin,
Mm-hmm.
that same thing doesn't affect them as much. So you kind of
That
have
concept sounds fire. That sounds
to
like
get, you know, I don't want to say too much, but yeah, I think that kind of gives you some ideas
right.
of.
I look forward to seeing it when it comes out. That really sounds dope. So you said you're a PK. Uh, how did your parents take it? You know, you being doing comedy, and you don't censor yourself. So
Yeah. Well, to be honest, when I first started, I would say the first at least like 6 years of my journey in stand up, I was a clean comedian, clean. And it took a lot of, I would say, a lot more censorship. And it was fun at first. It started off as like a challenge, coming really from my family, like my father being a minister. I remember when I first told him like, hey, I got booked at the Comedy Store to do this show. I remember the first thing he said was just like, just don't be up there doing all that cussing, like um And he kind of shared a few women in comedy with me and things like that. He was like, look up Minnie Pearl and, you know, a couple of old school people or whatever. Not or whatever, but, you know. And I just remember hearing what he said, and I started to kind of like do my own research too, and kind of like just things I've heard about comedy and what's expected, especially out of women. It kind of for me was just like, well, people, you know, kind of are expecting something raunchy. I think I can be a little creative um, with my pen, and, you know, maybe still say things, but figure out a way to clean it up a bit. But also, I would say when I first started, my life was in a whole nother place. I was definitely a lot more of I still had like a lot of barriers on me. And I would say even bondage, I'll call it that, of just like when you are a preacher's kid, you kind of you're a little bit on the stage already.
Yeah,
And,
I was a deacon's kid, so I know like you put
yeah,
those shackles on yourself. It's just like, oh,
exactly.
the church tells you don't do this, this, and this, but
Right.
the world is like this, and then you got to start doing your own research. That's where I found my freedom is I started doing my own research, and I'm like, okay, well, this is I can do this. Nowhere in the Bible does it say you can't say a cuss word.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff that's not in the Bible that people say you can't do. And there's a lot of stuff that is in the Bible that says you can't people do in the church. I'm like,
Exactly.
I can't cuss, but we can eat bacon every Mother's Day. Okay, sure. Um, but yeah, I once I started to get to a place where I noticed my life was changing, my life was shifting. As I was growing, I wanted my comedy to grow too. And as I started to experience a lot more freedom within my own self, I just stopped with the censorship. I stopped with the second guessing everything. I'm like, hey, this comedy is coming from somewhere. These ideas, these wild ideas, they're coming from somewhere. So who am I to sort of try to change who I feel like we're all uniquely created. God uniquely gave us all things about us, gave us all experiences that make up a whole sum. That for me, I got tired of just like being in one box, and it's like, no, I'm a full spectrum human being, and I have
Right.
a range of emotions, a range of languages I speak, and all of these things that I just was like, just show up as yourself, you know, and
You
that's
speak
okay.
different languages?
Different languages in terms of speaking to different types of people. So I can, you know, from everything from professional to
Are you
gangsters.
code switching? Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just from life, connecting with so many different types of people, having to, and I've been having to just naturally being malleable to that.
So do you still consider yourself a Christian?
Yeah, I do. I would say I am definitely still a Christian. I am not a person who is highly just like the religion
Mhm.
part. For me, is definitely more about spirituality. So within my walk, I am a person who believes that God reaches people where they are. That God, I've been to Dubai and waking up by prayer from Muslims that reached me in a way where I'm like, nah, God is right here. I feel the presence. Like, you know what I mean? So to me, I don't I would say I am more about the relationship than anything else, would be the best way to put it.
I agree 100%. The relationship and not the tradition.
Yeah,
The going to church every Sunday, put a hat on, wear the pants like this type.
right.
So I see that you smoke.
Yeah.
Was that hard to like reckon with?
um No, not really. I would say for me, um, I don't know. Like I was like, I was first introduced to cannabis at a young age. I wasn't an avid smoker, but
Can you
the
tell
first
me
time I
your
ever had,
your first time story?
the first time I ever smoked weed, I was in the 6th grade, and it was a girl from the church. She came over, was like, "Oh," like I knew she always smoked, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm down to try it." So the first time I tried it, I didn't get high. The first few times, like didn't like I tried it that once, and then I tried it again like in high school. Nothing happened. And then in college, I remember like this is when I was a theater major, so good. They just have all the good drugs, but uh, I tried. I had some green crack, and that was the
That's
first
strong.
time. Yeah, I had this was my first time smoking out of a bong, like, and I probably inhaled it properly for the first time. The first few times I probably never inhaled. That's probably really what was happening. So that was the first time I felt it, and I was like, "Oh, this is nice," but I was very still like, I don't want to just be like smoking with random people. So I went and got my cannabis card, and that's kind of how I became like a smoke weed every day girl. That
My first time was crazy. I was in high school, and somebody had one of my friends. He kind of knew how to get to me because I was one of the really good kids in church. So I'm like, you smoke weed, really? You're not supposed to do that. And so the guy kind of found a weakness in me. I was grieving from the passing of my grandmother at the time, and he was just like, "Let's go after school." And I lied and said I smoked before, and
okay.
so we get to back, and he buys a dime sack, rolls it up in two whole blunts, and we sit there and smoke two. And he told me how to hold it in, and he was like, "Okay, don't cough my weed out." He said, "Cough on the inside." And I was like,
There you go.
I was high my first time.
Yeah, so you had a good experience your first time. Yeah, my first few times was just like, I don't get it.
I don't get what all the fuss is about. So, growing up in Cali, did you ever experience any like getting banged on type thing in San Diego, or were you out of that area?
I was in the area, but because I was in the area, there was like this natural respect that I didn't really have. I never had issues. I was never pressured to join a gang, pick a side, or anything like that. I got along with everyone. So I was blessed to have protection, you know, um, and not, I would say, I never had to, I've never had somebody be like, what set you from? That's never happened to me.
I think it's like different for women than it is for men because like I got banged on a lot, and even looking like I do, people still banged on me because I don't know why, but like a target, I guess. But I guess for women, it's different. So
And maybe, I mean, I had a lot of homegirls who bang. So it's like, I don't know. I don't, it just never came from me.
so is your father still preaching?
Yes, he still does like I was like assistant pastor. So growing up he had his own church, and then he moved on to do ministry through gospel radio. So that's his main thing. He has a 24-hour gospel radio station 7 days a week. Um, and it streams universally, San Diego gospelradio.com.
I've
And
heard of it and
yeah,
listened to it.
yeah, that's my dad. Preacher man is my dad.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else that you want to plug before we get out of here? Anything else
Um,
that you're working on, or anything else? I'll give you the floor right now.
okay. So I have a few upcoming projects. One is called Car Therapy Series, which is amazing. It was written by a Black woman. And I'm always excited to just do projects that represent more voices. And I think therapy and mental health all around is something that we need more open discussions about in projects that don't stigmatize it and things like that. I play the best friend of the lead. Tony Baker is also in this, um, and it's a digital series, so it will be. Right now, we are in the process of doing a little bit more crowdfunding. So check out our GoFundMe, cardtherapyseries.com, just so we can get the proper editing, color, all of those things, so that we continue on with the Black excellence. So that's one thing. Um, Working on music this year, so just be on the lookout. You can stay connected with me on Instagram is where I'm at the most, at Jonnae the Queen, Jonnae the Queen. Everything else just first and last name Jonnae Thompson. I think that's it. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to come out and
Absolutely.
do this with me. You know, I'm a small YouTuber right now, so getting to work with people, you never know unless you ask. And
That's
so,
that's the truth. And thank you for asking. I appreciate that, and I'm wishing you the best of luck in growing your series. You know, consistency is key. So as long as you keep doing it, it's going to continue to yield results.
thank you so much. And I'll definitely send me the link for everything that you're doing. I'll put it in the description of the
Okay.
videos. And thank you very much.
No doubt. Thank you.
Peace.
Peace.